Hello, everybody. Welcome to part two of my conversation with Jeanne Andrus, which was all about menopause, the relationship danger zone. At the end of part one, we were talking about menopause being a time where women could start to put themselves at the center of their lives and actually start to consider what they wanted to do for the rest of their time, because it was their time or should be their time. And in part two, we're starting at the point where I'm asking the question around the resistance that women might feel to going into menopause because of what they might feel it means. And in addition to that, women not actually realizing what's happening to them at this time, and therefore not being aware that it's about, or that it's their hormones that are going out, and therefore that just being generally dissatisfied with what's going on in their lives. And it might be just mood swings, mood changes, and not understanding why that's kind of happening and not realizing it's down to the hormonal situation. So back with part two. Do enjoy. I wonder how many. So, the women who come to you, do they generally come because of the physical symptoms?
Yes.
Right. And is it through their work with you that they realize that there's the mental, emotional side of it, that, oh, this is connected?
Yes.
I'm not going crazy. This is part of this.
Yes.
Right. So there's then the issue. I think there's two issues then. One, we're in a society where your value is in youth and beauty and all of that kind of stuff. So even if you get an inkling that, oh, something's not quite right, and someone says, oh, you might be starting to, you're kind of like, no, 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 don't want to hear it. No, I'm not. So there's that, the non-acceptance of it, or the resistance to it. But also since it's not, I don't want to say acceptable, but I can't think of another word. Since it's not viewed as acceptable because it is taken as a sign that you're becoming the, as you said in your book, the hag or the witch or whatever it is.
Old.
There's that side of it, but then because it's not talked about, you also don't recognize it yourself.
Exactly.
So, and even if you do start to, so where it's really tricky is you're not realizing that it's happening, but you're just dissatisfied with everything, or you can't be bothered to cook anymore. You don't have the energy to cook anymore. And why can't somebody else do it?
Right.
Which looks like you're just checking out, which then starts to cause conflict between you and your partner. How can we get the word out that this might actually be your hormones starting to go out, and it's worth looking into that? And how do we do that? Because if you go to the doctor, it's going to be, like you say.
I went to, so I admit my experience is 20 years old, but I went to my doctor and we started talking about what was going on in my life. This was after I broke up with my ex, and I was dating my now husband, and she said, "Oh, you need to be on birth control. We need to check if you need to be on birth control." Send off the test. She calls me up. She says, you still need to be on birth control. Now, notice what didn't happen. Nobody said the word perimenopause.
Yeah.
Nobody said the word menopause. Nobody said, this is when you become infertile, which, by the way, is after a year of no periods. So I could have told you I was still fertile because I was still having periods. I was having really regular periods for the first time in my life. Excuse me. A couple of years later, I switched doctors. I was still having periods. I had moved. I went in and he said, any changes, anything going on? I said, not really. And he says, well, let me know if it does, because we have a way to handle that. He didn't tell me what to expect. He didn't say the word again. I was still having regular periods. I was late to menopause. I was about 56 when I had my last period. He didn't say, don't worry about this. He didn't say the word hot flashes. He didn't say mood swings. He didn't say most women are going through it by now. Nothing. Now, maybe they've gotten a little better. I hope so. But even our doctors don't say the word. So for me, it's been a long slog, and I hope that I've been part of opening this conversation up, because I say the word menopause all the time. I mean, I really do. And yet we still don't say it. We don't tell our younger cousins and sisters and friends to expect this. We don't, and it's been a taboo for so long. I agree. I don't know what the answer is. Somebody got $7 million I can take out a Super Bowl ad.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
menopause happens when you're 43 and you're not old.
Yeah.
But literally, I would love to take that ad out that says, you are not old just because you're going through menopause. Menopause starts when you're in your early 40s, in this menopause journey that I call it. It starts with anovulatory periods at the age anywhere from 38 to 45, 50 to 46. You might start having these anovulatory periods. You might start having symptoms. But then for the rest of your life, you are either perimenopausal or postmenopausal, except for the day that you're menopausal, which is roughly 40 years. So this is literally
That's a long time.
half your life.
Wow.
You are, if you are average in the US, you hit your last period at the age of 51. And up until COVID, your life expectancy at that point was 81. So 30 years. And so you've got 30 years of being in this postmenopausal state. You had roughly, if you go back, subtract, you had roughly, that takes you back roughly to 21. So half of your adult life is spent in this postmenopausal phase of it. And that means that you get to choose how you're going to respond to that. But it's much easier to respond to something if you know what it is.
Yeah.
If you see somebody use this example the other day in a meeting I was in. If you were a Native American and you were standing on the beach when Christopher Columbus's 3 little ships came over the horizon, you looked out and you saw something that you'd never seen before. And it was frightening, and it was, you bowed down to them as gods because they could walk on water. If you were in an Aztec and the conquistadors came riding on on the horses, and you saw these 4-legged man beasts coming at you, what did you think they were? They were monsters, because you'd never seen a man and a horse, and then they separated. So it's the same kind of, if menopause hits and we don't know what to expect, then we're frightened. All we've been told is it's, the end of life as we know it. But it's not, because we've all known women who are thriving and contributing and being amazing in the second half of life. So learning about it is the most important thing that we can do as women as we go into this second phase of life. And one of the things that I love to do is teach coaches about it. Life coaches and business coaches and health coaches who work with women in this phase of their lives, because often they don't know that there's an underlying biological thing going on that's creating all of this cliche of midlife women in transition. Of course, we're in transition. Our bodies are changing. Our minds are changing. Our hearts are changing. Our spirits are changing. Our relationships are changing. And who we want to be is changing. So even though we go into it screaming, I just want to be me again, the me that comes out is different than the me that went in.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're part of the mission of educating now.
Yeah, very much so. So I'm just wondering if to go to menopause and perimenopause is a taboo enough subject in and of itself. But part of that, I'm going to go to another taboo bit.
Okay.
Is maybe one of the other reasons why the men kind of cut loose and go to a younger woman is because the intimacy part of relationships is much, I'm going to say much more important to them.
So
women, that's the big thing for men in a relationship, and libido seems to be one of the things that
right
you exit left.
So let's talk, first of all, let's talk about libido being on a continuum. And actually, everything I talk about is on a continuum. So there are women with super high libidos all of their lives, and there are women who never cared a bit about their sexual lives. So we are on this continuum. However, women make love, men have sex.
Yeah.
For the most part. So women have to engage their mind, their heart, and their body in order to really be satisfied in a sexual relationship. So we've already talked about the heart piece, the emotions, the change in that relationship, and the feeling that this relationship may not be an equal relationship anymore, that maybe we're putting way too much into it, and maybe he's not doing his part, and maybe he's not being the romantic partner that we want. So our minds and our hearts aren't as engaged, and our bodies are changing. And part of that change is that we are less juicy. So if we're going to try and keep this to a clean episode, you know, our vaginas are not as elastic and they are not as lubricated. And so therefore, sex becomes more painful. Is he willing to put up with that? And I say that from the standpoint that he's always just gone in and had sex. But now he may need to romance you more. He may need to prepare you more. He may need to lubricate. That is sometimes a turnoff for guys, as they think you're not as into them. And so that relationship is tougher. And if it gets too tough, it gets neglected and it gets thrown away. And as you said, the man can say, I need this and I'm going after it. Other side of that is sometimes men, they've got ED issues or they're just not as into it. And the woman feels liberated by her no longer being able to have babies as a consequence of this activity. And so she's not as worried, and that allows her some freedom in expressing her sexuality. So there's often a mismatch. Often.
It's so multi-layered, isn't it?
It really is. It's very multi-layered. And for couples, again, this is a negotiation. It's what do I need? What do you need? Who needs it? How can we both get our needs met in this relationship? And if his need is to, drop his clothes in the middle of the hallway, change, shower, sit in the recliner, flip on last night's game on the VCR or on the DVD or a DVR or whatever it is, and say, hey, honey, bring me a beer. What's for dinner? And she's just gotten in from work and all of this. And it's not a relationship that's gonna work for both of them anymore. And it's not gonna work for him and it's not gonna work for her, maybe. And so the relationship has got to see it's its own thing. See what I mean? It's its own thing, and it has to be renegotiated. And if it can't be, then maybe both partners are better off finding a new way to be happy, because being happy is important.
Yeah.
Being happy is really important. And it's also something that women get at this time of their lives. Their ability to be happy expands.
Really?
Sure. Because before, our happiness was in making others pleased. People pleasers.
Yeah.
People. So we spent all of this time making other people happy, but we didn't necessarily say, wow, I want that horse. I want to go traveling to Paris. I want to paint. I'm going to spend all day curled up in my chair with a cup of cocoa and a cozy mystery novel. And I'll be done when Mrs. Marple solves the mystery. And that's because I don't read cozies, so I don't know who the newest cozy I don't know whether you know this, but cozies are a whole genre of mystery novels. They feature cats and cups of tea and books usually. But if those are things that are making me happy outside of a relationship or making anybody else happy, It's not making anybody else happy if I buy a horse. That's might make the horse happy, but it's about making me happy. It's not making anybody else happy if I train for a half marathon and spend 4 hours on a Saturday morning running my long run. I'm a very slow runner, very slow. So if I'm doing that, that's my choice for me. And so I get to be happy in doing that. And by the way, runners are often very happy, even if their faces don't look it.
Yeah, I know.
It's hard to smile when you're running.
When you're trying to breathe. Yeah.
It's not breathing so much. It's just that the bouncing in your face kind of,
Yeah.
just sorry. My ex and I used to drive down the street and see people running and saying, they don't look happy. Well, it wasn't until I became a runner that I realized that runners can be very happy while doing it.
Yeah.
And so that kind of ability to just say, I'm going to make myself happy today is something that we may not have had in our lives, our upbringing, our cultural and our biological imperatives are that everybody else has to be satisfied before we go out for our run.
Yeah.
So I see younger women all the time who say, well, and you ask them, can you run in the morning? No, I can't run in the morning because I have to get up and get the kids off to breakfast and off to school and pack their lunches. And I have to make breakfast for my husband. And then I have to get myself to work. So they can't run in the morning, and they can't run in right after they get home from work because they have to do all that stuff for dinner. And so they're sitting there saying, how do I run at 9:00 at night? And so they just don't. I recommend black dogs for that because nobody bothers you when you have a black dog and you're running. I run at night all the time. I love it.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I admit I live in a very low crime area, and I have a black shepherd looking dog that runs with me, and used to have two of them, and soon I'll have two again. But large black dogs, people don't bother you.
Yeah.
Especially as my dogs tend to be protective of me. So
Yeah.
running at night is fun. But we don't get that chance to make those decisions. And so you hear of women getting really time crunched, trying to get to the gym and take care of themselves. Women try, why do massage therapists mostly have postmenopausal women and older men as clients? Because we have the time to do it. We have the time to make ourselves happy, make our bodies happy.
And the side effect of that is other people get the happy you. So they do get the benefit of you being happy.
Yeah, they do, but it's not the reason we do it
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
We get to put ourselves first. It's an awesome benefit of who we are. And we've got all this experience. We've got all of these things we've learned. We've got all of these little bits and pieces that we saw on the way here, that we maybe we were doing a project with our kids in elementary school, and we saw something, they had a geography project, and you learned about Costa Rica, helping them make this scale model of Costa Rica, which turned out to be you making a model of Costa Rica and them playing on the floor. But let's not go into the education system right now. But so you saw this Costa Rica and you said, boy, I want to spend some time in Costa Rica. Well, who gets to, unless you're really lucky, you don't get a chance to just walk off to Costa Rica in the middle of the afternoon and spend 2 weeks in Costa Rica when your kids are in 5th grade, because they can't go and you're not going to go without them. And dad says, I'm not taking the kids for 2 weeks and you go off to Costa Rica. So now you get that opportunity. You say, let me open Costa Rica. Let me Google that. Oh, look, there's a retreat in Costa Rica. It's a 4-day retreat, and it's yoga and swimming and snorkeling. And then if you want, you can take this. I'm going to Costa Rica. And you do.
Yeah.
And so we have so many opportunities. Now, here's the other side of that. Let's say you don't take care of yourself. Let's say you don't make the choices to support yourself. And so you're hot flashing and you're annoyed and you're not sleeping and you're so tired, you're not doing your job. And so your boss says, this isn't working out. This isn't working out. I need somebody newer and younger and less expensive than you. And they put you on, they lay you off. So if we don't take care of ourselves, we don't get to reap the benefits. Maybe maybe we don't take care of our sexual or our relationship. And so we're now on our own. And maybe that means that financially we aren't in the same place we were when it was a 2-income household. But the opportunity is there. And we get to make those choices. But we don't get to make the choice if we don't do, as we were talking about earlier, we don't educate ourselves and our friends and our sisters and our cousins and our nieces and nephews and the woman standing in the aisle looking at a package of estrogen and saying, which one do I take? If you don't say, this is who you are now, this is your opportunities, these are your choices. Your choices are limitless.
But the example you were giving, sorry,
okay.
The example you were giving about taking yourself off and going to Costa Rica and that kind of thing, do you only get to that when you're post-menopausal and things have kind of evened out? Because
No,
before that, it's all a little bit.
It is a little bit. A lot of that depends on whether you decided to have your child at 24 or 34. Because if you decided to have a child at 34 or 38 or 40, you still have young ones. And believe me, I would never recommend that you, as a perimenopausal or postmenopausal woman, would walk away from a child who needs you.
Oh God, yeah.
That is, your kids get to remain in the center of your life forever. I hope. I hope. Mine is, and he's 44. But he is, I was just thinking about, I need to call him today. I hope he's not on the ski slopes, but with his little ones. But we do get, if we start to support ourselves, we get to make those choices. If we start to realize who we are and what we are and the choices we make, then we can negotiate our lives and navigate our lives to make room for ourselves.
Are you saying
Perimenopausally,
before we start going into
before our periods stop? The best thing about postmenopause is you can wear white pants anytime you want. Perimenopause, don't ever wear them because you never know when. But we do get that option. And what I'm seeing when I look around at some of the women I talk to and work with as entrepreneurs, in groups of business coaching or things like that, what I do see is women who are finding themselves in their early to mid 40s starting to say, I need to make my own choices. I need to put myself first. I need to balance out my life. And if they're supporting themselves, and even with hormone replacement, as much as I have issues with it, it's okay.
Yeah.
If that's the way they're supporting themselves through this, they're still getting that little bit of residual. I'm changing. I need to put myself first. I need to be the person I was meant to be. And that doesn't, again, it doesn't take anything away from motherhood. It doesn't take anything away from being a career woman from 20 to 45. But it does mean that you may have made choices based on others' needs rather than your own.
Yeah.
And so now you're making choices based on your own needs and renegotiating all those important relationships in your life, which is where we started. This whole thing was about maintaining those important relationships in your life.
Okay, so this has been a very enriching conversation. And just to sort of round back towards the end of this conversation. So in summary, kind of, it's going to be quite a long
In
summary, I
summary for
think.
this episode,
Going into perimenopause, whether you think you're in it or not, chances are if you're late 30s,
35.
early 40s, you probably are.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to get perhaps anxiety issues, anger issues, mood
Depression.
swings, and depression, and it's not like you, or even if it is like you and you've had this before, but it feels like it's more intense or
Intense, yeah.
that kind of thing, then have a think about whether you are perimenopausal and get that checked out.
Mm-hmm.
That would then be the time to be aware of your responses to things and where they might be coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's likely that there will be the hormonal side to it,
Mm-hmm.
which may just mean you're less tolerant of certain things, but at least you'll be aware that it's your tolerance levels that have gone down.
Yep.
And then you can decide how you want to approach it from there. But it's approaching stuff with the awareness of what's going on with you.
The awareness and the tools. And that's why my programs are designed for both of those pieces, the awareness and the tools and the rebalancing. So yeah, exactly. So that when we go into this and we have the awareness and we know that this is an issue for us, we have the tools to handle it. We know sometimes it's as easy as breathing. He triggered me. He did it again. Breathe, breathe, slow that breathing down, massage that vagal nerve, hum. Believe it or not, that actually is massaging your vagal nerve, and it's moving it from fight or flight down into rest and relax. Hugely important.
Yeah.
So having the awareness, using the tools, rebalancing the hormones.
Then you look at your partner
Mm-hmm.
and you're thinking, why the hell am I with him? Or whatever you might be thinking.
And you
What
hand
do
him
you
the
do
book.
then?
You hand him the book. You read the book first, rip out any pages you don't want him to have, you can get it in paperback, so you can rip out the pages you don't want him to have. I literally have had women do that. They're just over sex. And I talk about rekindling the romance and rekindling the sex part. They just say, I'm ripping that part out. He's not getting that. But then you say, go read this. There will be a quiz. If you don't pass the quiz, we don't have the talk, and you don't get any sex ever, even on your birthday. But yeah, and then you start to renegotiate that, and you say, do we have anything here, or was it just what we had when we were young and having the kids and getting through this? And if you don't, you don't. And as much as I'd love to believe in the fairy tale of happily ever after, it's not always going to happen.
Mm.
And fortunately, we live in a society where it doesn't have to happen anymore. You don't have to stay with a man who doesn't want to make your life better. And that can be as simple as giving you a kiss in the morning, or giving you a hug, or making sure that he doesn't steal all the covers, or whatever it is. If he doesn't care about you enough to make your life a little better, then maybe isn't a relationship there anymore.
That's a two-way street, though. Yeah.
It is a two-way street. It is a two-way street. And that's part of the negotiation is, what do you need from me? And what do I need from you? And can we make this work? I needed my ex not to be in a relationship with another woman that was more important than ours. He needed to be in that relationship. It didn't work. There was no way. There was no way it was going to work. Had she not been in the picture, he needed me to come home more engaged from my work. I was traveling for work. He needed me to come home more engaged from my work week. And I probably could have done that. Except for the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a long time in the past, so it's I can be flip about it.
Yeah. But see, even that could be part of perimenopause, in that you didn't realize
exactly
that you were not engaged to the degree that he wanted, and that may have opened the door for.
Yep, there was a tipping point. There was a point that it could have gone a different way. Was not my finest moment.
That said, I do believe in what's meant to be will be, and everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
And if you didn't realize, maybe you weren't supposed to realize.
I wouldn't be doing this work today had my marriage not fallen apart, had I not decided to get myself healthy, if I had not realized eventually what was going on and why it was going on, and how much other women were struggling with the same thing, and that I did not want other women going through what I had gone through, and not having the choice. So it's all about choice. You know, I had a choice, but I didn't know what the choice was.
Yeah. So as a coach, I would love to help women understand those choices, understand what's happening, have the awareness, and understand within themselves, first and foremost, what it is they want to renegotiate, if at all, how they might go about that. But this is I guess, all from the female perspective, and we obviously haven't looked at the male perspective because they may already have checked out or whatever the case may be, but just to help women navigate within all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fascinating conversation. Thank you so much. I don't know whether we have in the show notes we had from before both books on and the links to both books, but if we haven't, this is important. I know a lot of guys don't like reading, so maybe is there an audio version?
There is an audio version. Excuse me, just one moment here.
Yeah, no worries.
Hopefully that's a little better. There we go. There's an audio version of I Just Want to Be Me Again. There's not an audio version of Where Is My Wife? Both books are available on menopausebooks.com. You can buy I Just Want to Be Me Again right from the website. There are links on the website for all of my books, several books about specific symptoms, and Where Is My Wife and those are available on Amazon, and print versions are available from Amazon worldwide.
Okay. Brilliant. I will check the show notes and see if we've got all of that in there. If not, we can add it. Really important subject. And so thank you for that.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Great conversation.
Fascinating and hopefully really helpful to anyone listening, male or female, because I think if you're in a relationship, if you're in a couple, then you've got to work at this together, and it is a two-way street if you want to save the relationship that you have. And importantly, you also talked about other relationships, parents, children, friends, and that's very important too. Just realizing where you are in all of that. So yeah, very, very good conversation. So please like, share, and subscribe because there's more great stuff coming. Thank you so much, Jeanne.
Thank you so much, Jackie.
And no doubt we'll have more fascinating conversations at some point. I really enjoy speaking to you. So thank you so much. And don't go away. For having me. Don't go away. I will stop the recording and we can say bye off camera.
There we go.